Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Keeping Up with Montevallo Athletics. I'm your host, Caleb Brooks, joined by head football coach, Coach Blake Boren, fresh off of a big 42-0 win over Holt this past Friday. And Coach, for you and your team, obviously the middle part of this season has been a struggle at times. You've been in ball games, just haven't kind of been able to get over the hump. How big was this past Friday night and this team going out, not only winning, but dominating and getting back into the win column for the season?
Well, it was great. We needed to win, and we've had a rough few weeks here. But yeah, it was great to go out and play Holt and to see our guys compete and to play the way they played and scored a lot of points, played great on defense. So overall, it was a great night and really get back on track, and hopefully the last couple of games for the year puts us in a good position.
Yeah, that had to be the most encouraging thing. Is it'd be very easy for a couple of these guys to have gone through some of the struggles you guys have gone through and just say, hey, forget this season. We're not worried about it. To still see them going out playing hard and wanting to go out there and win and help this program out, that has to be really encouraging and show you a little bit about the leadership of this team.
Yeah, it's really good. That's what you're tasked with. That's your responsibility. Again, you only get to play so many games. You're guaranteed 10 opportunities. And so, when you start looking at building a team and putting a roster together, you sort of turn the page. Like for us, we turned the page off of 21, around December of last year. And so we put all of our focus and attention into this year's group. And that was a process that started really, last December, right after the state championship games. And so you go the entire months of January, February, March, April. You go all the way through the summer. And so you do that with these 10 opportunities in mind. So, yeah, I think it was great that we kept the mentality up. But it should, because this is what we've been building for, with those 10 unique moments on Friday night when we get an opportunity to go out and compete. And we had that opportunity last Friday, and we will this Friday as well. So I would expect our kids to have much of the same mentality moving forward.
Where do you feel like this team performed a lot better? What areas do you think this team performed a lot better at Friday to get the result that they got?
Yeah, I think we ran the ball extremely well. Anthony Martin, it's nice to see Cam Goins back again off his second week. He's getting better each week. Between the two of them, I think we were over 200 yards rushing with 20 carries split between the two of them was really good. We threw the ball really effective. I think we were 4 for 4 on paper, but when you factor in some of the little screen passes and things we did, we were really closer to 7 for 7 for well over 200 yards with a couple touchdowns. Even our young quarterback, we have a really good 9th grade quarterback that we're excited about for the future. Was able to go in and play. Jordan Ward had a completion and a nice run. So yeah, all in all, it was just an efficient night offensively, and then again defensively, we did a really good job. Our kids were kind of locked in, and what they do presented some challenges. They would go from double wing to spread, and you sort of have to play it differently, and how you prepare and plan, because they're two completely different thought processes. But I thought our kids did a really good job, and it was just an efficient night all the way around.
I hear coaches talk all the time about the team working hard and doing all this stuff. They grind in the summer, they get into the season, working hard at practice. How big was it, do you feel, for your team to see some reward from the way that they've worked and all that and getting that dominant win on Friday night, just from the psyche of this team and, just having them continue to believe, continue to work here over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's been really good. Again, our guys believe, because, if you're playing in this program right now, you've never really experienced anything other than success. I think we've been to the playoffs 4 years in a row. This group, the majority of our seniors won a playoff game. A lot of them started as sophomores. Had a really successful year last year, and so we definitely have guys that understand what we're doing in the process. They also understand what it takes to prepare to play, and so again, they did a great job Friday night, and from that aspect of it, that's been really well all year. One of the things that's really just hurt us, and really it's in any level of football. It's just we've had a number of guys banged up. We're finally starting to get healthy again, and so. When we have all the pieces of the puzzle there, it obviously makes it a lot easier to go along and continue on doing what we need to do.
Obviously, a must-win situation for you guys this week in order to have a chance to get in. Still going to need some help from some other teams in order to get in. When you're talking to your group and selling them on what this week is, the importance of it, how do you make sure that they don't put too much into this game and try to press too much, knowing that it almost is a must-win game in order to have a chance to keep the season alive?
Yeah, it's a very important game. I think there's some natural desire and want to from our group. I think as a school, Montevallo's only beaten, and I may be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure when we looked at it, Montevallo's beaten ACA one time in the history of the school. Haven't played a whole lot. It's sort of been mostly recent matchups as ACA has gotten into 4A and moved up from smaller classifications and whatnot. But there's a lot of motivation to go out and play well. It's a team that really has been one of the elite teams in the state, particularly 4A South. They should have played for it last year when they played Viger, had a really good team. And to me, their best teams were probably the first year I got here in 2020, they were loaded, had a guy that went to Georgia and had a receiver that's got big-time offers now that's still a senior this year. So they've had incredible players there. They're hard-nosed, they're disciplined. They're not always the most physically impressive group, but they're the hardest playing group every week that we play. And they play with great technique and sort of remind you of some of the great, Mountain Brook teams that have come through, some of the great UMS Wright teams. They play hard and they're very physical and aggressive and extremely well coached. So it will be a big test for us, but it's a test that I think our guys are excited about.
When you get later in the season like this, do you almost look at, now the later weeks right here and at practice, is it almost an extended spring training for you guys in a way of, do you start focusing on some of the younger guys more, getting them more reps in practice and start trying to build them up for building for next year?
I don't think so. I think you do what you have to do to try to be successful and win. And so, the one thing that you really start to do in some of these later weeks is you start to gear it back a little bit. The individual techniques and things that we've been working now, we work those daily. But really at this point, we have the physicality is down. I think every team in the state is in playing shape and conditioned to go out and play on Friday night. So for a lot of really good teams, it's how do you limit the load during the week so that you can reach peak performance. We're all beat up, banged up, and bruised, and really the teams that handle that the best late in the season are the ones that thrive, at least in my experience is doing it. So I think some people would probably go the other way. You get in and you try to work from the mental standpoint, kind of understanding what you're going to see, maybe reduce some of the workload of it when you're really good. And you get your guys to Friday night, you do it as best you can. For us, we're still playing JV. We play JV again tonight. So one of the things that we like is we've got probably a bigger staff compared to a lot of schools, and so we have some coaches who are kind of dedicated to our younger kids, and I think that pays dividends for us. We've got some kids that are starting for us at 10th graders that, if you looked at them last year as 9th graders, you'd think they're probably 24 months away, but that process can be accelerated when you're getting individualized work every day. And so, we're approaching it from that angle, but we play JV late here. We're playing and we're wrapping up our season tonight. And I think, again, with a roster our size, if we've got 10 coaches and 50 kids, that's really 5 kids for every 1 coach. That's a pretty good ratio compared to some places similar to us.
Ron, how big of an advantage is that where, you can have enough guys to go play JV ball and play it this deep? You have coaches that you can trust to go and run the JV program while you're still doing varsity practice, all that type of stuff. There's not a lot of programs, 1A through 5A, that have that with the staff. So how big is that for this program to even have that ability to do that type of stuff?
I think it's really big. I think you get into some places and you go and look and there's 23, 24 kids, and everybody you have is having to service you on scout teams, and you may have 24 kids and 18 of them be skill type bodies, and you're asking kids that are 9th grade, receivers to go and play a defense tackle to give you a look. And so for us, I think our roster is in a really good place. We've got good depth, as things go from a practice standpoint, and I think that allows you to kind of hone in and focus on what your skill set and position is, and I also think it helps, keeps guys fresh and gets them wanting to continue to play. And again, having coaches that, while we're maybe working a varsity period and we may have a look team out there, but we could still take the guys that are left over that are not on the look team or the varsity team and still get them quality individual reps. I think it's really important for their development, and that's one of the things I think we've done well here over the last couple of years.
Obviously, we talked about this ACA team and how good they are, and not to give away any game plan secrets or anything like that, but what are some of the weaknesses you think this team has that you guys can try to attack and exploit on Friday night?
Yeah, they don't have many weaknesses at all. I think that's why they're one of the better teams in the state. When you look at ACA, Demopolis beat them the first game of the year. Well, Demopolis probably should beat them. Demopolis is extremely good. They're averaging 60 a game, and Coach Seymour does a great job there. They're explosive, and they play upper class, and that program's run like a lot of 6A and 7A programs wish they were run when you look in it. And you look at Northridge, who beat them, and again, Northridge is a 6A. ACA is really not a 4A. You got to remember that with the competitive balance factor, ACA is probably 2A numbers, playing up. And they were a game away from going 5A last year with a competitive balance factor. So when you're playing Northridge and when you're playing Demopolis, while your record may not be undefeated, when you look at the caliber of teams they're playing, when they beat Bibb County the way they did, this is one of the better football teams that we've seen here, and there are not a lot of weaknesses. Their weakness is probably just size. It's tough on ACA when you got to go play 6A Northridge, and your enrollment's probably 2/3 of what of a school like that is.
You know, we've talked about the older guys. They've been in games like this. They've seen teams like this. For some of the younger guys that you have playing out there, some of the sophomores and those guys, juniors that didn't play a ton last year, how big is a game like this where you get to see a team like this and you get to go compete against them, and then going into next year as you build for next year, you know, we've seen a team this good. You know, we've been out there with some of the best before, and just the confidence that just playing against a team like this can give them going forward.
Yeah, it's really good. You know, I think in terms of building confidence, I would take you back to our first year here. You know, we got beat at Shelby County right out of the gate, my very first game here. It really didn't look very good at all that night, and we went out and played ACA, who was the #1 team in the state, the second week of the season. You know, I think we ran for 330 yards, 340 yards, scored almost, I think we scored 30 points, if I remember correctly. Now, they beat us pretty good. They beat us by 25 or so, but that really boosted our kids' morale that year. You know, we went from not looking really good at Shelby County to the running back was the state player of the week that week, ran for 300 yards against #1 team in the state, scored a lot of points. And I think it put the idea in our guys' heads that, you know, we got a chance to compete. We just got to weather, you know, what we were in. And that team ended up, you know, winning a playoff game. And it was one of the best 16 teams left in the state, I guess, when it all shook out. And so I think you can kind of circle back to that ACA game. And it's the same thing now. You know, one, we need to try to win the game to give us a chance to continue to play, which is obviously the #1 goal when you go into this thing. But two, to be competitive again against the best in our region would really help. You know, the regions are not going to change next year. And so I think as you go into your off-season program and you go into your summer program, you can kind of circle back and say, you know, we did some things well in this game that that hopefully you can carry with you as you go into later dates. But clearly the focus is on nothing other this week than trying to do the best we can this week, put the best product on the field, put the best plan in place. You know, again, our coaches worked extremely hard over the weekend, you know, in getting us prepared to play and putting our people in the best positions that we think we can do to be successful, and obviously our kids need to go out and try to execute it on Friday night.
You know, when you look at this Friday night for you guys, where do you probably want to see the biggest improvement? You talked about how this team beat Bibb County, the way they played against them. What's probably the biggest improvement you want to see from your group from the Bibb County game now going into a big game with ACA?
Yeah, we you know, thinking back on it, we've got to do a better job offensively of running the football than what we did at Bibb County, and you know, some of that's personnel related. You know, we'll try to utilize personnel and get into some different formations and some different alignments and some different shifts maybe this week to help get us to the point of attack a little bit better than maybe what we did at Bibb. And then defensively, you know, again, defense really comes down to, do you get lined up? Can you play within your assignment? Do you play with technique? Do you tackle? You know, forget everything else. It's about, do you run the football and tackle? And we've played really well on defense this year. You know, I think our defense is a top 15 defense if you look at points per game given up. And you know, outside the Bibb County game, there haven't been a whole lot that have just scored at will on us. And so we'll want to make sure we're sound defensively again as we go into this game.
Coach, again, appreciate you taking the time again this week to join me here, and
absolutely.
Good luck to you guys.
All right, we appreciate it. All right, I'm going to call Tina. She's got a class. I may have to go run up and see her.
Okay.
With our cross.
Welcome back in, keeping up with Montevallo Athletics. Caleb Brooks now joined by head boys basketball coach, Coach Tyler Blackwell. Coach, you know, for you now, year 2 coming in as the head coach here at Montevallo, and I like talking to coaches that get into their second year because for you, you're way more comfortable being here, being with the kids. The kids are way more comfortable being with you and what you ask of them at practice and stuff. How much smoother have things gone with this summer and even with this off season right here during the school year? I know you don't have a ton of kids to work with during the off season because a lot of them playing football, but just how much smoother has everything been now going into the second year here?
Yeah, I thought this summer was a very critical part for our program. You know, I got here, I hired so late last year that I didn't even have a summer. So we kind of went into the season. We had, I think, 7 practices before our first ball game with everybody. So made it a little tough, made it exciting. We hit our stride, I thought, towards the kind of after Christmas break. The issue was a lot of other teams are kind of hitting their stride too as well. So it's been interesting. It was a good summer. We had good participation. We had you know, 25 or so guys out there going at it all June. Went to a bunch of camps, got some reps underneath some of our younger guys. We'll be really young again this year, but it's made it good. We're ready to get started. You know, we've got a couple more weeks left with football, and then we're going to be going at it.
Tell me a little bit about your style of basketball, the way that you like to play defensively, offensively, and how you feel about this group being able to take on that style a little bit more this season.
Normally, try to be a little bit multiple defensively. Try to adapt kind of what teams are trying to do to you. We're going to try to play a little bit more upbeat this year, up tempo. Try to get after teams a little bit more. Got to create more possessions. Last year we struggled a little bit scoring. I thought beginning of the year we weren't very talented defensively, and I thought our guys did a great job of taking that to a point and a passion. I think, from December on, we held teams averaging less than 40 points a game, so that's pretty strong. Our goal here is if we can hold them in the 40s and score in the 60s. That's kind of what our goal is, what we talk about doing every day at practice.
Today, practice is going to get going. How many guys will you have out there for practice, and how will that affect what you can do compared to maybe some other programs who may have more guys out there?
Yeah, we're going to have around 10 guys, and then we'll our JV football season kind of ends today, so we'll get to have some of the younger freshman guys out there as well. True varsity guys, we'll probably have about 3 varsity guys right now going for the first 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how long football goes. So it makes it a little tough. Gives some younger guys a lot of good reps at the beginning of practice. Gives them a lot of good reps for getting ready for their season as well. We consider ourselves being one program here. It's not varsity JV, it's one program. So it's given a lot of guys reps that they'll need for their part and their critical part of growing here. Makes it tough because when you've got 6 practices, 5 practices before you play your first game, there's a lot of those guys that just play 10 football games. It's going to be a little banged, a little beat up, and they don't have much time to relax and get fully recovered. So hopefully we can continue to go into this year not beat up too much and get our legs up under us and be ready to go our first game.
Well, when you're building a program, it's got to be a good thing that you get a lot more one-on-one time with some of these young guys. They get to see what the relationship is like with you, and you get to see how they respond to stuff, and that has to help once they get to you at the varsity level in the future as well.
Yeah, last year our JV went about 500, and it was the most wins they've had in quite a long time, and it was something we took pride in, knowing that we're not just building one varsity team, it's one program. I thoroughly enjoyed watching some of these young guys compete. We had 3 seniors last year. We lost 2 guys that won't be with us again, so we're going to be terribly young again on varsity. And then when you get to continue to add some of those sophomores that played on the JV last year, we've got a decent chance. Not much experience, but we're going to be really young, be able to get after it, and hopefully be able to play a lot of guys this year.
This is a place that has a good history in basketball. Kids nowadays, they don't necessarily care about history, but is that something that you do use to kind of build confidence, say, hey, this is what we can be capable of around here?
Absolutely. We talk about what they've done in the past. We talk about how important it is, and a lot of the kids see the fans come in and talk about how passionate they are about you, how much they support, which don't happen in a lot of places nowadays, and we have a great support system here. We talk about how important it is every day to show up and be prideful of the fact that you get to play for Montevallo High School. And unfortunately, as important and as successful as it's been, they haven't been able to put much up on those banners and add to it. So we talk about being able to make it back to a regional, make it back to a Final Four, and hopefully hang up something that hadn't been done since, I think, the 70s here. So.
This gym here is unique, obviously, to other places. How does that help but also hurt in ways where, you don't have to worry about the crowd being right behind y'all. You can talk to your guys and all that, but the other team kind of gets the same thing, and they don't have the necessarily away environment of the students being right behind them, stuff like that. And so how does that kind of affect the dynamic, I guess, at home for you guys playing here?
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, I think we get to practice that every day. So our guys kind of get used to it. I think our communication on the bench makes more important. We talk about we got guys on the bench that has jobs that's sitting there as well. They're communicating with the guys on the floor, so you can hear them a lot more. If they're not communicating on the bench, they're going to get a nice prize from me come practice the next day. So it's important. It's different, like you said. The other teams don't have it as well, but they're not going to be as used to it as we are. So we kind of use that as our advantage when teams come to play at our gym.
Do you see other teams affected by the shooting depth and all that, with the wall being right there compared to no crowd, that type of stuff?
At times, I'd like to credit some to our defense at times too, but it's different. When we go to play it, we go to try to schedule a couple of games at the university for the same aspect. When you get into a regional, you're playing in the bigger gyms. It makes it a little difficult for guys to be able to shoot. So we like to try to have it all prepared for when something like that happens, that our guys are experienced to it, don't have any excuses, and they get to just go play ball and don't have to think and just do what they do best.
talked to a lot of coaches about this part. Basketball is very close to going to region play. Baseball, softball, soccer was close to going to region play. Obviously, that ended up not happening. Are you a fan of going to region play and having more meaningful regular season games, or what? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of just getting the best teams that's available come to Final Four, come to state championship. I want the best teams playing no matter what. I hate seeing teams that, there are certain teams that have area opponents that are ranked 1, 2, and 3 that you have some of the best teams in the state that never get a chance to play in the region. So it'd be interesting. Obviously, I'm not smart enough to have all the answers to that. I don't know what it can be to get it fixed, but I would love to see something similar to a region play, see what we can get, and see if we can get some of the teams that make it difficult to make out of the area to see if they can go compete again in a region title.
What's probably the biggest improvement you're wanting to see from last year's team to this year's team, with it being year 2 with you here?
Our attention to detail. Last year we lost, I think, 9 or 10 games by less than 5 points, which comes down to a couple possessions every game. We've talked about it in our off-season workouts. We've talked about it in some of our off-season skill training and even this summer. You never know that one possession can happen in the first quarter or the fourth quarter when something's going to matter. So our attention to detail of every little thing, being able to take it the next step. I thought we took last year so much trying to learn a system that some of our attention to details slipped past our mind, and that falls directly on me as well. So our guys have done a good job in off-season workouts, attack the conditioning, attack the workout stuff, trying to get one step better every day. So I'm excited to see how it goes out for us.
Well, Coach, really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Keeping Up Montevallo Athletics, and good luck to you and your team. Practice gets going today, and before you know it, we'll be tipping off the 2022-2023 season. We look forward to seeing how it goes.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay.